Why, hello to each of you, and welcome back to the Zander channel. Here I help people get out of their head and establish and maintain coherence to our heart. Yes, even if you're a man, everything vibrates, everything has a frequency. The universe, the earth, you, your words, your feelings, such as hatred and love, dis-ease, such as cancer, even money has a vibration. And you can change your vibration with your thoughts and your feelings to match the thing you're looking for. This is my path to happiness, joy, and love, and I invite you to subscribe and join me in this journey towards peace, joy, and happiness. Now, this video is about the human 100 or 100th monkey effect. This is an explanation of that to clarify, because there's many different ideas out there of what it actually means. Now, the 100th monkey effect is probably one of the most cited phenomenons in the awakening community, yet is also greatly misunderstood. Many contend that this effect is proof positive of an instantaneous and automatic ascension or awakening of all people will take place in the near future. A type of tsunami of awakening will sweep the entire planet, forcing everyone to be more loving, honest, and fair. Is that really, really true? The 100 monkey effect is an accidental discovery by a team of researchers in the mid-1960s. The team was studying Japanese macaque monkey, that was provided sweet potatoes from the team that they enjoyed eating. Now, an excerpt from that those actual notes of that study. In 1952, on the island of Kashima, scientists were providing monkeys with sweet potatoes dropped in the sand. The monkeys liked the taste of the raw sweet potatoes, but they found the dirt unpleasant. So an 18-month-old female named Imo found she could solve the problem by washing the potatoes in a nearby stream. She then taught this trick to her mother. Her playmates also learned this new way, and they taught their mothers as well. This cultural innovation was gradually picked up by various monkeys before the eyes of the scientists. Between 1952 and 1958, all of the young monkeys learned to wash the sandy sweet potatoes to make them more palatable. Only the adults who imitated their children learned this social improvement. Other adults kept eating the dirty sweet potatoes. Then something startling took place. In the autumn of 1958, remember they started in 1952, 1958, a certain number of Kashima monkeys were washing sweet potatoes. The exact number is not known. So let us suppose that when the sun rose on the morning, there were 99 monkeys on Kashima Island who had learned to wash their sweet potatoes. Let us further suppose that later that morning, the 100th monkey learned to wash the potatoes. Then it happened. By that evening, almost everyone in the tribe was washing sweet potatoes before eating them. The added energy of the 100th monkey somehow created an ideological breakthrough for the island of Kashima. But notice, a most surprising thing observed by these scientists was that the habit of washing sweet potatoes then jumped over the sea, and colonies of monkeys on other islands and the mainland Japan troop of monkeys known as the Takashikiyama began washing their own sweet potatoes. So here's the most revealing passage. The new behavior pattern spread to most, but not all, of the monkeys. Older monkeys in particular remained steadfast in their established behavior patterns and resisted the change. When the new behavior pattern suddenly appeared among monkey troops on other islands, only a few monkeys on those islands picked up the new idea. The ones most receptive to the new ideas started imitating the new behavior and demonstrating it to the impressionable younger monkeys. Thus, they too began their own path towards their eventual 100th monkey effect. So first, the effect was not a complete and total paradigm shift with the monkey population. At best, all that occurred was a transition of awareness. The newer monkeys learned about the washing method, but did not automatically begin washing the potatoes. Second, the transmission occurred after a sufficient number of monkeys in the host population expressed the washing behavior. It was only then that only a few monkeys on those new islands began washing the potatoes. In other words, it wasn't enough to simply be aware of this new way. It had to be accepted and expressed in order to build up the host population, which eventually experienced a pandemic awareness of the better way. Finally, the newly affected monkeys on the surrounding islands began their own path toward their eventually 100th monkey effect. In other words, that the affected population had a time delay between the transmission and the majority of the monkeys displaying the washing behavior. All these points suggest an entertain or some sort of maybe an entrainment or a synchronization process, which is a property of waveforms or system of frequency. The mind and consciousness have long been associated to frequency and rhythmic patterns. See my video on Human Resonance 101. And the transmission effect perfectly matches what can be observed in other phenomena such as synchronizations and metronomes. Now, when two systems of motion come into contact with each other such that transformation one can be transmitted to the other. So information can be transmitted from one item to the other, sort of like a tuning fork, also a metronome, or some other similar phenomena. Now, a slow and steady process of entrainment takes place. Eventually, the two different systems will synchronize to the point that the motion of one is reflective of the other. One of the better examples of the universal information transmission via frequency and resonance is the metronomes. So you get a set of metronomes. Synchronization occurs in a four-step process, is symbolic of how the same process occurs with the mind. Step one, initially the metronomes are ticking at unique rhythms, unable to be transmitted to the others because no medium or channel is available to provide for the mechanical energy to flow. The swinging of each metronome arm moves from side to side, and it does so kinetically. Kinetic energy in the arm pushing against the base of the metronome. But because the devices are on an immovable surface, the energy cannot be sent to their neighbors, and it is absorbed by the table, so no transmission can take place. Step 2, the metronomes are placed on a board and moved on top of two cans. Now, the motion of the arms has a pathway to travel to the other metronomes, which pushes against the base. Though the board onto the other pushes against the base through the board and onto the other devices. The movement that they are placed together, a new system is created with an ideal resonant frequency. This frequency will push against out-of-step motion and push with in-step motion, which slowly alters the behavior of each individual device to match the larger board and metronome system. And this is where transmission begins to occur. Step 3, the resonant frequency of the board metronome system is initially at a low intensity or volume. But as each metronome's behavior is adjusted, they begin to tick in harmony. Eventually, the intensity of the resonant frequency overtakes the frequencies of the individual metronomes. At this point, the near-instant synchronization begins to take place. Transmission is rapidly accelerating. Step 4, the resonant frequency of the board metronome system is now dominant, exponentially working against out-of-step movements of the individual devices. The inertia of the individual frequencies of each metronome becomes less and less strong. until the whole system is dramatically shifted into a synchronized state of over a few seconds of time. Transmission is then fully complete. So let's reanalyze the 100 monkey effect. So the metronome example, we're able to synchronize under certain conditions. A metronome is placed on a table that is too rigid. It will not allow for the unique frequency to be transmitted and harmonized with the group. This aspect represents free will. We all know about free will. Now, a metronome can only be changed if it's open to the others. So you have to be accepting to the ideas. All right. Finally, the process takes time. It wasn't until the resonant frequency of the metronome board system reached a strong enough intensity that the quantum leap process started. Similarly, the same type of shift occurred in the monkeys. For example, the subjects that were the most receptive to the washing behavior were the young monkeys, those able to recognize the advantage of doing so and that were open-minded enough to try the new way. The older monkeys that were more stubborn never learned to wash the potatoes at all. The key principle here is free will. People set in their ways. People set in their own reality. Those that have already made a soul contract to not wake up past the 3D lifestyle. They chose to stay in the matrix, and that's part of their soul contract. The monkeys were not forced to change, but instead they had a choice. Finally, the process took time, marked by definitive and recognizable hallmarks of the process. Once enough monkeys made the choice to wash potatoes, an overnight shift took place, and almost all of the monkeys took up the new behavior. So how does this translate to the human consciousness and the infamous paradigm shift spoken in various circles about instantaneous changes? Firstly, the key reason why metronomes synchronized was because the resonant frequency was better than the individual ones. Similarly, the washing behavior was better than not washing them. This means that there was a real and bona fide objective improvement that was overriding the older behaviors. For the human consciousness to shift, this translates as a truth, and practically that finding the truth and sharing it with others isn't just a nice thing to do, but it literally improves the quality of life of individuals and the groups objectively. Now you have to understand that in today's society, honesty is pretty much outlawed. Not literally, but figuratively. Now, this is an essential aspect to consider because the shift in consciousness is objective and practical while also being ideal and subjective. It is a personal choice as well as a scientific process of discovering and finding the better way. All you can do is teach. You can lead a horse to water, blah, blah, blah. Okay. As each individual on the planet discovers the truth and or understands it personally, they will then alter their behavior accordingly so as to embody the wisdom gained, if they identify it as wisdom. For example, cutting wood with a small axe is less effective than using a larger one. In most common cases, a person would rather be more efficient than not. Therefore, the shift in consciousness is not just a more positive way, it is literally a better way. The marriage of idealism and pragmatism. Now, secondly, this better way can not be forced onto others. Free will and the ability to choose is still in effect, right? This means that as the consciousness shift progresses forward, on average, people will most likely embody those more accurate truths and change accordingly, but not everyone. Right? That being said, the nature of our social fabric is such that many people find value in what the collective is doing. In this sense, when a majority of humanity embodies this newer way, it will naturally become more appealing to the minorities. But free will and choice of each individual is still the determining factor. Additionally, each person is on his or her own unique path towards discovering this so-called better way. And while from our point of view, it may seem as if others are not evolving fast enough, but they're still making progress. They are not on your schedule. They are on their own schedule. Even people who reject all forms of truth and hold on to the past are part of this shift that is taking place. Their stubbornness and of itself is an indication that the newer way is gaining strength. And as such, it requires more energy to deny that. Compassion in these instances is far more helpful than peer pressure. Finally, not everyone will shift. This is an idea that makes most people uncomfortable, as it's some of them are being left behind in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Maybe that's their soul contract. You don't know. But in truth, since the whole process is founded on a free will choice, this is not more is it not more honorable? Is it not their choice? Forcing someone on your beliefs is your religion, not theirs. Wars have been started over such things. Let them do their own thing. They have free will of their own. Now, if an individual denies the objective truth of the better way, that is their choice, and the universe will not force it onto them, but they will continue to labor under the errors of their own making. This is just like the older monkeys chose not to wash the potatoes and suffered the displeasure of eating dirt as a result. It is these contrasting experiences that help us open our minds to newer ways of being. As such, we need not become frustrated at the closed-mindedness of others, because this is actually an indication they have received the transmission but simply chose to reject it. A choice we would do well to honor, so long as it does not harm others. And when we switch to, interestingly, when we switch to the 5D, it's going to be constant change. If these people are not willing to come up with a change, it's going to be more difficult for them to be a continual object in motion, an object in the atmosphere of constant change. All right, now this concludes here. At this stage, not enough data is available to make any kind of prediction as to how many people will shift. But since the shift is ultimately a personal choice based on the knowledge and awareness, we can assist others in their path by sharing what we have come to understand as individuals. This means that the simple act of kindly sharing our own experiences and our own truths is the single most important factor to the human 100th monkey effect. So understand, you need to be truthful with yourself. And in the modern age Wicca is the witch heal thyself before you can try to heal others. You cannot drag people out of the bar. They have to come out on their own. Then you can preach to them or explain your ways to them. Don't stand on top of a stage with a bullhorn yelling at people in your ways. They just will not listen. You're just another person that's blocking their way because you stand in the middle of the sidewalk. Now, it may be difficult to see the shift occurring, but it is undoubtedly is, and we need only to stay the course of seeking the truth, understanding it, and sharing it with others to ensure things progress forward. They may not want to hear it at first. They might fight us and call us all crazy. But all these things and more are indications of the transmission has been received. We need only to honor them and their choice while taking measures to ensure it does not harm another in the process. So I hope that these deep principles of free will and information transmission are understood so as to provide the surety in knowing that your work and our work is having actual impact. Just because it's not happening fast enough for you doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay? Smash that like button, subscribe below if you learned something or if you found this interesting. Comment below and ask an educated question if you want the answer to. If you love this sexy face, hit the notification bell for my next posting herein. And as always, the future of medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Albert Einstein. See my video on the Schumann resonance. Dr. Otto Warburg, 1931 Nobel Prize winner for cancer discovery, stated in his Nobel Prize speech, no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. And why are you taking medical and health advice from people who have a vested monetary interest when you're diseased?